Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is classical game 2 of 2 from the finals of the 2025 Freestyle Chess Grand Slam Tour Knockout. On the white end, Fabiano Caruana, playing against Vincent Keymer. Caruana lost game 1, must-win situation here for him. This was played on February 14th. Start position here, number 909. A couple things stick out to me with this arrangement. G pawns unprotected. Both knights can quickly target these g-pawns. Each knight only has to make 2 moves, and the g-pawn will be under fire. Also, the kings. Where are they going to castle? Now, with some arrangements, you could castle on move 1. Not here. If you want to castle to the g-file, that's going to require a lot of prep work. 6 moves must be made before you can castle to the G file. If you want to castle to the C file, 3 moves. That's the fastest you could do it in each case. 6 to the G file, 3 to the C file. Why am I pointing this detail out? Well, what do you think is more likely? G file castle or C file castle? Probably C file. This may help us understand move 1. D4, a step in the direction of castling to the C file. Also, in a way, Caruana might be saying, if you're going to challenge my D pawn, I have the option to capture, and I have a half-open file to work with. Once castled, where do you think the rook ends up? D1, it's a productive piece. Keymer's first move, F5, combats this idea of forming a pawn duo. If white wants to go in for it now, we're capturing, rook is recapturing a potential target. Bishop d5 may be a move, hitting the rook, eyeing up that weak g2 pawn. Be a bit awkward to have the rook there recapturing. Follow up from here, knight h to g3. There's 2 things going on here. Pressure on the pawn, and the knight is also there to be a supporter for an e4 advance next. So if you play in this position, let's just say g6 to control the knight, defend a pawn, this would already be borderline losing in the computer's eyes. We're looking at an evaluation close to plus 1.2 after the move e4. It's a very strong follow-up. The knight in a position to recapture, more efficient recapture. How to combat these 2 ideas? Well, d5. Perfect move. No e4, and no knight takes f5. Now, there's drawbacks connected to d5. 2 holes have been created. e5, e6. e5 is the one that's really sticking out to me. Pawn controls it. This is a backward pawn for the time being. Is there a way for white to quickly control this e5 square? Is there a way to get a minor piece there quickly and prevent this pawn advance? Not really. In the game, what do we have? It is f3. Gearing up for the e4 advance, but black hits first. Now, another detail I could have pointed out from this start position was the rooks. The rooks are both unprotected. So there is a sort of prize, in a way, if you can be the first to exchange off your e-pawn in this case. There will be some pin applied to your opponent. All right, white's reply here is d takes e5. No rook recapture. Knight h to g6. 2 ideas. 1 and 2. We see number 2 in this game. Caruana's reply defends the pawn, and there we go. That weakened pawn at the start, g2, clearly under fire. And it's not just the pawn. Black's ready to win the exchange. Rook has no moves. How to address this threat? Well, white's reply here is with c4. Computer is drawn to knight d2, giving up this pawn, and then there's a square at least for the rook. Wants to play with this pawn, connected pawn. In this game, we get c4. Follow up, we get the capture here on c4. If white plays in a different way, what does white have up his sleeve if black goes in for this capture? Well, this bishop would now have the move to a4, targeting the rook. And in this situation, white is saying, you take my rook, I take yours. And if you save your rook, let's say with c6, I could save mine. All right. Black's reply is to simply capture on c4. Now this has softened up black's grip over e4. e4 will soon be played. First, a jab thrown at the rook. It's defended, and there we go. e4 break. So how to break up this pawn mass in the center? Top move here, a key move that really sparks a lot of simplification. We get g5. Now, let's try to make sense of this tension here between the pawns. There's a few different captures that can be played from here. In the game, it is knight takes f5. Let's touch on these other two captures, the pawn captures. What's happening in each case? Well, in the case of pawn captures on f5, the knight could track down the g-pawn. And we have this nice little fork here. If the rook moves here or here, knight takes pawn is a good follow-up. If the rook is going to e4, you can first flick in bishop d5 and next look forward to the knight recapture. There may even be a situation here where black can go ahead and sacrifice a minor piece, something like this. It is a three pawns versus a knight imbalance. All right, not a situation, not a road we go down there. No capture here on f5. What's happening if pawn takes on g5? Well, there would be this clever move f4, bugging the knight. And where does it go? First of all, the pawn is poisoned because knight g2 would be that much more effective. Major piece, fork. The knight will have to move. And where does it go? Here we're chopping away, recapturing with check, and any other knight move, most of them terrible, we're scooping up the g-pawn. So however you slice it, black's going to have an excellent response here after g5, no matter what white does. In the game, it is knight takes f5. We get these exchanges in there. Bishop blocking. Black is up a pawn here. White has to try to keep the queens on, so development here with the bishop. Must-win situation for Caruana. Both knights now developed. G pawn 1. Queen developed, but now we have this offer of a queen exchange. How do you keep the queens on at this point? You really can't. We get the exchange here on f4. The alternative, if you want to keep the queens on, let's say queen here. I mean, are you any better after castles? Black is completely developed. And note the queen from f4. She outshines the queen here on h5. She has an eye on f1 and c1. What does this mean? You can't castle in either direction. If you bug the queen, there's another piece that could target that weak g2 pawn. So you pretty much have to try and go for a queenless position. That's what we see here. And now a second knight back on that weak g2 pawn. We get castles in this game. King ends up on c1 here. You could castle in the other direction, so like this, to defend g2, but knight d3 is also a pretty irritating move to me. Targeting the other pawn here, b pawn, g pawn, potential targets, however you slice it. This is under fire as well. Black is in the driver's seat, however you slice it here. So white's decision goes with castles to the c file. Knight picks up a pawn. Rook g1, knight e3, and from here, knight f5 is played. So Caruana in a must-win situation, trying to stir up trouble. Clearly with this move, it is not objectively best. He's giving up the exchange and playing in this way, but he's putting all his chips in on this idea of planting a knight on d6 and coordinating on some 7th rank square. Objectively best, it says rook d to e1, but if you play in this way, it's just too calm and too calm a position, too dry, well under control here for black, blockading the pawn and just a moment out from activating that last piece. So he tries to stir up trouble here with knight f5, but the exchange is won. 7th rank here for white. Simple castles, allowing the check. The king scoots over. He's cool if this pawn is tracked down with check. In the game, it's knight takes rook. If rook takes pawn, only move. And now how are you getting that piece back? There's a threat here to chop the knight and then the rook, and also to just rescue the knight. So that really won't go anywhere, capturing here on g7, even if it hits with check. We get knight takes rook, simple recapture, and from here the coast is clear. Just activate our pieces. Nice stable square for the bishop. We trade h-pawn for e-pawn, and lastly, put the rook on its ideal post, or ideal file in this case, and that is right behind the passed pawn. We get a check, king c3, another check, the king returns to d2. What else is there here for Caruana? If you move forward, you're asking for trouble, you're going to lose. There would be b6, and it's nearly a mating net. This is still a lot of material to weave a mate. Here's an example of how there can be a checkmate, something like this. There you go, there's a check, and checkmate or checkmate. So moving forward is not going to be helpful to white. We end up getting king to d2, another check, king c3, and the players end up repeating here. This one ends as a draw, trying to do something else. So at this point right here, moving in this direction, you're going to lose the b-pawn. The rook is going to get right back over here, and then you have a passed pawn to work with yourself. So this one's just not going to work out for Caruana. Ends as a draw. So Keymer ends up winning this whole event, takes home a cool $200,000. So simple enough, right? All he had to do was draw this game. Well, hang on. Look at the players he beat to win this event in the knockout format. Yeah. Alireza Firouzja, Magnus Carlsen, and now Fabiano Caruana. In cases winning that first game and really putting the pressure on his opponent in game 2. Fantastic result. Anyhow, what are your thoughts with this one? Feel free as usual to leave any feedback to this video in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.